society does say things like men need to be vulnerable. And I'm going to tell you the truth. The truth is a lot of women cannot handle a man's vulnerability prematurely. He has to build a level of respect and a level of strength in front of her, and then he gets to display that. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If I am in a burning building and a firefighter, this protector comes in, and he looks just as worried as I am, I'm never going to respect him. But if that firefighter comes in the building, rescues me, drags me out, brings me out, makes sure I'm okay, and then I see him in the corner crying because it's like a devastating situation, I will have full, complete respect for him because he completed his mission.
So another question I have is, how long should men wait to cry in front of their women?
So the strength of a relationship should happen with intention, right? Not the way that people have been doing it for the last 30, 40, 50 years. I'm speaking about something completely new. When you're dating for intention and purpose, vetting and verifying within 6 months. After that 6-month part, that's when he should know whether or not he wants to marry her or not, and be able to transition the relationship where it gets to advance and become more serious. So within a 6-month time frame. So I would say at the 5 to 6 month mark. Because by then you should be able to see whether or not this woman is flexible in your sight. Can you lead her? If you make a recommendation around a book, is she quick to read it? Right? Is she accepting your influence? If she's very resistant and rebuttaling, if that's the kind of woman that you want, have at it. Right? That should not be the clue for a man to try harder, in my opinion. And sometimes that's what men think. I like a challenge. Really? You're not looking for a woman to think. You're looking for a woman to flow. So consider that. Right? And when I say you're not looking for a woman to think, I don't mean despite her contribution to help you process. What I'm saying is you're not really looking for her to rebuttal. You're looking for a woman to flow. Because that rebuttaling, if it's toxic, it becomes a hindrance and you will be screaming and fighting for space to think. Because men need to process and think in silence. So when a woman starts to her voice begins to sound like the teacher from Charlie Brown. He's not hearing anything. It's just wah, 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 wah. It's high pitched. It is deafening, right? So within that 6-month time frame, a man should be able, with intention, vetting and verifying, is she malleable, flexible in my sight? Is she accepting influence? And as she's malleable, how much of this is genuinely her? Right? Or does it seem like it takes a strong effort?
Yeah.
Right? So once you're able to see that, and the way that you can tell is if she's doing it without you needing to prompt her.
Coaching, yeah.
Correct. So, when, as a coach, my favorite clients are the ones when I give the homework to them and they come the next session with the homework complete. I know that they're accepting my influence. But when I have to remind someone over and over and over again, I need to build rapport. Because there's a glitch in the trust. So we have this belief that a man is supposed to be applying pressure. And again, we need to have these conversations in context. When do you apply pressure? With whom do you apply pressure? Are you applying pressure with a woman who's already chosen you? Or are you applying pressure to a woman who's moving away from you physically, communicatively, right? If you're saying A, she automatically wants to say C, B, Z, right? A woman like that, a cantankerous woman, a difficult woman is a woman that you reject. You move away from. Why? Because again, you are not marrying a woman for rebuttaling purposes. You're marrying a woman to flow, to preserve, to advance your purpose. So if you are thinking about your purpose, this is why relationships fail. Because when people get into relationships, they're not thinking purpose. They're thinking pleasure. I feel good. The sex is great, right? She looks good. We look attractive together. That's not a reason to get married, right? So if you know what your purpose is, it makes it a lot easier to discern the type of woman that you want. Because in some very rare cases, it will be helpful to have a rebuttal woman because it's if it is in your best interest. Because a yes for you can look like a no sometimes, right? So if you're in a political arena or you are a pastor, or you have a public facing profession, and you want to go into this bar or something like that that's going to make your reputation look terrible, and she rebuttals that, that's in context, that's a healthy woman, you might want to keep her.
Yeah.
Because she's a yes for you, even though she's telling you no. She's still preserving your purpose. That's why you have to have it in context. That's why she's going to test you. And women are feminine energy, right? I'm going to bring it into a little bit of a new age conversation because I want to paint a picture for you guys. I want you to be able to connect. The feminine energy is considered to be a 360-degree round circular experience, which is one of the reasons why women ruminate. When we receive information, we think about it over and over and over again. We don't let it go. Men are linear, simple. There's a beginning and an end, 180 degrees, right? So when a woman has information, if you marry someone who is right, who is argumentative, she's going to ruminate on that argument. It's not going to stop. As a man, what you're going to do, you're linear, 180 degrees. What are you going to do? You're going to compartmentalize the conversation. You're going to shut down because you're not going to address that with her. However, if it's a healthy woman, because I want to be able to, I don't want to just talk about the red flags. I want you guys to understand what the green flags would look like. A woman who ruminates is a woman who's going to have you considering all parties that exist. She wants you to think about the kids, mom, dad, grandpa, the intergenerational makeup of the nucleus of the family, which is missing, by the way, in Black culture, which is why we're at an impasse, right? But she is thinking about that 360-degree experience. What about work? What about your schedule? What about your health, right? What about the kids? What about our parents if we move too far away? To the unhealthy man, that occurs as nagging, that occurs as arguing. To the healthy man, that occurs as my helpmeet. She's helping me to think about the things that I'm not considering. The man, because he is linear and can compartmentalize, can help her by resolving those challenges, putting an end to it, because that's what you want to do when you compartmentalize. There's a beginning and there's a natural end. This is what we're going to do, full stop.
Solution.
Correct. With the children, this is what we're going to do, full stop. If he's stuck, what do you think? Why would that work? To help her arrive to the conclusion, as opposed to her becoming dependent on his ability to make decisions. Because she should be able to operate without you in the room.
Agreed.
Right? That is a massive mistake, which is why women study a man. I need to study you to know how you think, so I know how to represent you. It's why I have your last name, right? So when my father wants something, I can operate from my father. My father doesn't have to be in the room for me to make decisions for him. Anyone can ask me a question about my father. I can answer for him as if I was his own voice. Because I've studied my father, I've been around him enough to know what are his no's and his yeses. That's where you want to get your woman to be. So that's why you guys are going to have these conversations over and over again, over and over again. I don't just know my father because I'm just built like that. No, he's had several conversations. He has his standards and he doesn't deviate. He's consistent. So it's predictable, right? So if you're a predictable, healthy man and you're with a woman and you're having these conversations, these healthy conversations, she's going to have you consider all parties that exist, and you're going to help her come to the end of each piece. Now you have community. Now you have culture, the culture of your relationship. Decisions are easy because they're connected to purpose. You understand? It's all coming together?
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
I want you to talk to them because
Okay.
I feel that a lot of women don't understand the difference between a man with purpose
Yes.
and a man that is just not doing anything.
It's making you feel good.
Exactly.
I just want to feel good on the inside. It's like, mama, like that passion, that attraction, it dissipates. That's something that has to be renewed, regenerated over and over again. You cannot marry for that and have a long-lasting, healthy relationship. That's not what's going to make a relationship last. You need polarity. We need to be different. We need the yin and the yang. It's not yang, by the way, it's yang. So we need the yin and the yang, right? We need those differences. We need that depth. We need to be able to understand that we each bring something different to the table. Otherwise, we have codependency. Codependency says, I need you to move exactly how I move, think exactly how I think for me to feel okay.
And I think that's the push and pull of men and women.
Correct.
Especially when a man is, again, living in his purpose, it's going to look like I'm trying to pull you away from what you're trying to do. But really, I'm leading myself to where I'm supposed to be. I'm leading myself to where I'm supposed to be, and I need you to trust me that I trust me and follow me.
And so that's why a man of your caliber 100% must learn how to vet and verify. Vetting is not enough. We need a verification process here, because the verification process is linking what was said and what is done. This is where the accountability part comes in. This is men's biggest frustration with women, the lack of accountability. And we absolutely will scurry around accountability all the time, because when a man expresses his anguish, his upset, his frustration with a woman, oftentimes a woman will see that as an opportunity to steal that from him and say, well, this is why I did it. And it's because I was feeling this way. So now he has to stop expressing himself, pivot the conversation to cater to her emotions. A man should not allow that.
Now he's tiptoeing around what's really wrong.
Correct.
Because now he knows the area is no longer safe.
Correct. So he needs to re-engineer that and dominate masculine frame. Baby, I get that you were upset. I understand why you did it, but we're shifting gears here and I want to keep us on track. We can talk about your emotions in a moment, but let's stay focused on this topic right here. I asked you to do X. You said you would do it. You didn't do it, and you didn't tell me that you didn't get it done. I was counting on you to get this done. It didn't happen, and now that left me vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah, but I just got caught up. I understand what occurred, but I need you to acknowledge this is what I need going forward. I anticipate that you're human. I know that things happen, life happens. I need you to communicate when something has changed so that I know. Can you provide that for me? He needs to be firm and direct.
And what you just did, that whole tone.
Yes, that tone.
That tone is exactly how it has to go down.
100%.
Because I feel that as men, when we throw the aggression in there, that you guys latch onto that and think, okay, now it's time to fight. When really we're just being very direct and very just, this is what has to do, this is what has to happen to get the outcome that you actually want. That
would be the verification to discern she is not healthy.
This question is for Rome. Have you ever dealt with a woman who is just hardened inside? Like, it's just, there's nothing soft. Like, we've seen this as kids with some of our aunties are so mean. It's just everything is mean. And you're trying to figure out, like, why are you so hard? And I'm trying to be nice to you. I'm trying to be cool with you. And the more you do, the worse it gets. And I'm feeling like more and more every day is becoming common among women.
Yes.
A lot. And it got me to thinking that if women understood, and men also, some men just are going to start going either out the country or out their race to date. And it's not going to be as competitive, because if you go date outside of your race or outside of the country, most of these women are not hardened.
Right.
They're actually more open and receptive. So I just wanted to
we're going to talk about why.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I would say yes, I've met, I want to say most of the women I've met have been hardened in some state, form, or fashion. And the younger I was, or actually when I was younger, I took that as a challenge. And I took that as a challenge because it made me like live more in my ego that I could be the one to crack the code, so to speak. And I didn't have purpose, and I was just doing it for pleasure and just for my own sexual gain, just to be the one that she's going to remember that cracked that code. Now, the older that I've gotten, that is something I just stay away from, honestly, only because I know that a man was behind that pain. Somewhere along the line that a man was behind that pain. And something within that man she'll find in me, whether it's in me or not. And I feel like that trauma is transferable, whether it's mine to hold or not. And so from that point, you're basically in just this never ending battle, and that woman will never be happy, period.
Correct.
So it's not my duty to take on his shit and then try to give you the best of me. And I feel like that's the cycle that keeps happening with men and women, that someone's giving you the best of themselves and you're not appreciating what's being done, because you're still in like fight mode. Your wall is still up. It's still okay. I'm slowly melting, they say, because like I'm an ice cream. Like I'm slowly melting, and like he got me to melt. But I feel that the issue is you never came into this relationship just seeing me for me.
It sounds harsh, but when you say it's not my problem to take care of your shit, was what whoever did to you.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not fixing you.
None of us are fixable, but it's definitely, it's no one's problem. It's no one's duty to take care of the next man's shit or the past man's shit. That's, you have to heal yourself. You have to come to me as some form of healing. You have to, and when we ask for peace, we're not asking you to, we're really not asking you to like let us cheat on you. We're not asking for that. And I know it sounds like we want you to be, oh, you don't want peace. You just want somebody dumb and stupid to let you get away with your shit. No, what we're really asking for is, hey, I go outside every day and I bust my ass. And not only do I bust my ass, but the men that you're afraid of, the ones that you're asking us to protect you from, we see them. And some of us are afraid of them too. And we don't want to fuck with them. So you don't see that like we are actually protecting you while protecting ourselves, while going to work, while doing the things that you said you wanted, but not understanding that a busy man is not always going to have the time to give you everything.
It's a fact.
Everything. And for us, it feels like you just want to suck our souls dry. And that is fucking draining. And so what happens most of the time is we love you, but she's not going to suck our soul dry the way you're going to suck our soul dry. And we just going to go to the easy option because, just speaking for myself, I know how to be a good ass dog. You understand? Like I know how to be a player, and like I can go back to that like instantly. But where I am now, like I know the benefits of my discipline. I know I believe I don't want karma in my 40s. I don't want that at all. I know that we die at a higher rate.
Yep.
And I just don't want that stress. So it's messed up as it sounds, like I don't cheat now because I don't want no shit. Like I want to live long. I want to live healthy. And at some point in time, I got tired of like the hurt that I was giving.
Correct.
And so much has happened to me that I don't know if like my karma from that has ran out. Right. So why don't I just be a good dude right now?
Sure.
And I see the benefits of being a good man, you know? And I'm
proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
I see the benefits of being a good man. And I feel like the things that happen in my life, even currently, are because I decided to make that switch. And I feel like making that switch is really the true test of like being a man, lacking the desire to lie.
Correct. Yes.
Because I know I can say some truthful things to women, and I know that it's not gonna get me in your pants.
Right.
But the fact that like you're gonna listen to it, and I can tell by your reaction instantly where we're gonna go from this.
Right.
And I just like being able to do that and move forward.
And you discovered the secret as a man. A secret that a lot of men don't realize is that you have influence. I understand there's the power of the PUSSY. I get it. As a man, men, they see women as so powerful, and it's like, dag, if women only knew how powerful they were, if y'all knew what men would do for it. And as a result, you are polarizing it from the span of you are influential, I am not. And you discover the secret, which is that you do have influence, that how you show up does make an impact. So sometimes when a man grows up in an environment where he is not seen or heard or understood, he thinks that his actions are inconsequential. So it doesn't matter what I do. If I do great, it doesn't really matter. If I do bad, it doesn't really matter. And so he lives a little bit of a sinister life in that he's lying, cheating, stealing in some form or fashion because he thinks that his actions are going to be inconsequential. And therein lies the surprise. You're hurting people. And then when as a man, you are now at an opportunity of choice on who am I going to be. Once I recognize this fact that I'm hurting people around me that I said that I love, care for, respect, revere, and do I go on doing this or do I stop? So that's why I'm extremely proud of you, because some men don't, right? Even though they recognize that, instead of them recognizing their influence and their power, they manipulate it, right? And that's why people think some people are narcissistic, but that's really a lot of times just selfishness, that they just continue to do it because they feel like, well, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as they're making it seem. You recognize that it is that bad, and you're committed to not doing that anymore. So that's beautiful.
Thank
beautiful
you.
Work.
That also came with a woman's appreciation, though.
Okay.
Because for me, not appreciating who I could be
Mm-hmm.
and appreciating who I am now
Mm-hmm.
is just amazing.
Light years away.
Yeah, because
When you say a woman appreciated you, what do you mean by that?
So I feel like you guys, well, I feel like women are always saying men are dogs, men are dogs, men are dogs, men are dogs. And yes, we are. And we know we are.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm being good to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I'm being good to you, and I know I'm being good to you, that's a whole different power that I feel that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't want a parade. I don't want an award.
Mm-hmm.
But anything like you said, you study your man,
Mm-hmm.
those little things that you do for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking that as appreciation.
Totally.
And the less that you're nagging about the things that like my mishaps or my shortcomings, the less you are bothered by that, the less you bring them up, I'm taking that as appreciation.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm not a perfect man.
Right.
You know, but if you're constantly telling me what I'm not and what I should be doing, then I'm internalizing that. And I know I don't have the opportunity to say what you should be doing because that changes the whole dynamic of us just as a couple, you know, because now we're just telling each other what we're not.
Right.
And I recognize that. So I don't ever have that opportunity or I don't ever have that cheat code to be like, oh, yeah, but you ain't doing shit.
Right. And, you know, the appreciation piece, I feel like if there's one thing that I wish women would do more of in relationship is to display a heightened sense of excitement and pleasure and satisfaction when her man does things for her. I think sometimes, unfortunately, women, I've observed it in myself, where we'll receive something. I'm a processor, so I'll have delayed reaction sometimes. So I might receive something and I'll be courteous and say, thank you, I appreciate that. But there isn't a level of heightened excitement and joy. And I wish women brought back that little girl, you know, that sweetness, that tenderness that men are craving. Instead, women are hard and harsh, and what that does is it conveys a bit of entitlement. It's just like, I don't have to do this, right? Like, I know what I could be doing and I don't have to do this. And so, you know, I think a lot of that hardness that men are experiencing and observing in women is coming from the fact that the family structure, and especially in Black community, has dissolved. The nucleus of the family, which used to be intergenerational. We used to have grandma, grandpa, both sides being supportive, aunts and uncles surrounding, the husband and wife, their children, the cousins, right? We used to have community, right? And with that community, we had shared responsibilities, assets, resources. Now we have women who are single mothers at a high margin level, right? Of single mothers who are trying to do it all. She is exhausted. And when you're tired, you know, sleep deprivation is actually a form of torture, right? I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure you know that, like, in the military, sometimes when they get someone, right, either they're going to waterboard them or something like that, or they're going to deprive them of sleep because it drive you crazy, and you're going to give up the information, right? So when a woman is in her feminine and she becomes exhausted, she defers to masculine energy because masculine energy is what provides that energy and confidence and that stoicism, the hardness. But we just cannot transmute it. We just cannot express it as gorgeous as you guys can.
We don't have a choice.
Right. Your stoicism is attractive, but my stoicism can make me look hard. But that's what I'm deferring to because I'm exhausted because I'm lacking in community. I just don't have it. I'm just lacking in it. So I understand why a lot of men are passport bros and they think that these women on these other countries are just sweeter and nicer. No, I can almost guarantee you their grandmother is in the home, right? Or accessible. And something there's like this phenomena, I believe that God made it so. But when you start to look at your age and hormones that manifest over time, women, we have, you know, we know that we have estrogen, right? And we're emotional creatures. But when we transition and we go into menopause, our estrogen drops, right? And we become a little bit more logical, become a little bit forgetful, and so on and so forth. There's a midpoint, right, when you're perimenopausal, we can be irritable. But once that irritableness kind of subsides a bit, she becomes very logical and more linear in her thinking, similar to how younger men think. And when men get older, their estrogen increases, their testosterone drops, they begin to have the man boobs, the dad bod, and he is more in tune with his emotions. Imagine a world where a young man who was filled to the brim, overflowing with testosterone, is being nurtured and groomed by a man who has estrogen now, who's been there, done that, has learned from his mistakes, right? So he has a few things here. He has experience in being with a woman. He knows who he was as a man when he was younger. He knows about that brute strength and force and being dominating and the consequences thereof. And now he has a bit more estrogen, so he's more in tune with his emotions. He is going to be able to tell that gentleman whose wife is now pregnant and hyper emotional, go ahead and get her what she's craving. Just relax. She's pregnant, right? If a man is not told she is pregnant, right? Like I've seen men being harsh with their wives who are pregnant because they just don't know. This is not an automatic response. This is learned behavior to treat pregnant women with level of care and respect and tenderness. That's not automatic. That's taught for a man. And we are missing that, right? We are missing that component. And imagine a world where a woman is connected to her grandmother who has less estrogen. She's less stressed with her emotional bandwidth, right? She's not expressing her stress through her estrogen. She's more logical. So she's going to tell the woman, don't major the minors. Don't make the mountain out of this molehill. Leave that man alone. You ever heard old women tell young women that? Leave that man alone. Leave that man alone. Without the man, the older man telling the younger man, be easy. She's emotional. That's beautiful. This is gorgeous. You want this. Without the older woman telling the younger woman, leave that man alone. He worked 12-hour shift. Did you cook for him? Is the house clean? Is this prepared? Don't wait for him to, turn you on. Get ready. I've had a older woman tell me, don't rely on your man to get you in the mood, your husband to get you in the mood all the time. You get yourself ready. You prepare yourself for that man. This is advice that we're not hearing and receiving. So what's happened is what people are experiencing in women, which is a hardness and the sassiness in men, is actually a byproduct and a result of the dissolve of the Black family, the intergenerational experience. It's almost non-existent. Unfortunately, we are in real time experiencing something that we don't have a solution to. How do you create almost in a lab of sorts an intergenerational experience, right? Like we don't know what to do about this. We just know that it's happening. We don't yet have the antidote for it. We are observing it. So what I mean by that is that in this present day and time, in this real time, we can't fix it. What all we can do is hope to be different for the next generation, provided that people have more conversations like this, provided that people become very intentional with purpose, right? If you're intentional with purpose, so as an example, something that's very unique, people have studied the last 44 presidents and they found that they are all connected genetically. They come from one person. I think his name is King Charlemagne or something like that. Every single president has the gene of this one person. This means that which is true in a political sector, people are extremely cautious and paying close attention to how they're vetting and verifying their spouse, right? It's not by accident. People who are rich, old money, people who have a lot of money, they don't marry the 20-year-old airhead because she looks good. They don't. New money does that. New money is frivolous with their money. Old money is not. Old money might have the 20-year-old on the side if he really wanted her, but who he marries, who gets to have his last name, no, he's intentional about that. They have an intergenerational structure. They have money that passes on. What we have is in the Black community, we have people starting from scratch. We don't have any trust fund babies. Every generation starting from scratch. Every generation starting brand new, like we just came off the boat. It's very rare that a Black family is building off of what the last family did. We are scattered sheep, lost people. We really are. So as a result of being lost and being like scattered sheep, we cannot build. Consider this. Back in the day, people used to be called, Smith, or because he that was what he served. That was his purpose, right? Or like a blacksmith or something like that. Your last name often was a carrier of your profession, your purpose. It was clear. It was well defined. You knew what you were going to do. You knew who you are. We don't have that. So what we are doing instead is we are taking a microscope on the fact that 50% of marriages are failing and 80% of marriages or divorces are led by women. We're putting a microscope on that and making women the problem, making marriage, the institution of marriage, the problem. We need to zoom out to get a very full scope of picture of what was working then and what can we adopt from that to make it work now, and still imbue some of the modernization, because modernization has been helpful. But what can we keep? So this is a very complex situation. It's a very complex problem, and the simplified rhetoric that the Red Pill Society often tries to attribute as a solution to this is directly connected to the problem, which is do not connect to a woman. Give her the least amount of effort, demand the maximum, possibly put your seed in her, procreate with her, have a child that has no father figure around. It's perpetuating the problem. So what they deem as a solution has now become our demise. And yet they call it the biggest problem solver there is. It's not. They are reinforcing trauma. If you are a man and you have 20 children by 16 women, you cannot be in 16 homes equally and fully. You cannot. I don't care if you're in an Easter bunny costume and making rounds like Saint Nick.
Mm.
The greatest gift that you can give your children is how you treat their mom. The greatest gift that you can give your children is how you treat their mother, because the greater predictor in healthy children is not the fact that the father is in the home. The greater predictor of a healthy child is the happiness of the mother, because she is the nurturer. In the context of traditionalism, right? She is the one, especially in those very early years. And I'm talking about from 0 to about 5 years old, right? Those are the highest impressions around a person's attachment style. So if the mother is anxious and the mother's around this child primarily, right? Or this child is experiencing inferences from, this child is going to become an anxious child. If she's hot and cold and her mood is up and down, this child is going to have a disorganized attachment. They're going to sometimes want to connect and cling, and then when they get upset and frustrated, they're going to want to flee. And if their parent was just absent and they had to be an independent child completely, then they just are not going to attach at all. They're going to become avoidant. So again, the greatest predictor of a child's health is not just the fact that the father is in the home. It's the quality of the father in the home. It's not just him physically being there.
Mm.
It's how he's treating the mother, how they are loving on each other. Those things matter. So yes, we have hardened women. Yes, we have women that are rude and entitled and tired and frustrated. And if we want to fix that, then we need to take a pause and a break from having these conversations around having sex with women over and over again. We cannot have sex with women over and over and over again and then shame them for their body count. You cannot control consequences. Okay? You can have sex. You cannot control whether or not you have a child from this, an STD from this, or nothing. You cannot control that. Consequences occur. When men model for women what they pay attention to and what they're going to give time and attention and presence to, over time, what's going to happen is women will conform to it naturally. That's how we are built and wired. Cannot escape that. I'm talking about at large. So if at large, the woman who is modest with the long skirt, right, that's to her ankles, she got the long jean skirt, she got the cardigan, she's not wearing any makeup, she got her hair in a low bun, she's never getting flued out. She's not being invested in. She's not getting the car rides. But every time a woman observes a man giving time and attention to a woman, she's the one with the BBL. She's the one with the really long eyelashes, and her eyebrows are on fleek, and she got the weave and everything like that. Women need connection.
You guys also follow these women, and you basically you control what you consume.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what your whole feed consists of, or majority of your feed consists of, then how's that on us? Is it because we like that? Because aren't we visual creatures?
Well, the same way it's on a woman when she shows a man that she will accept the bare minimum. She allows, when a man has a conversation with a woman, he says, that's what you allowed. What we are basically saying is that on a subconscious level, we are picking up clues from one another. And these clues tell us how to respond. I'm not saying that it's a man's fault. I'm saying that you're making a contribution to this problem that you say you don't like. If you don't respect an easy woman, what are you doing laying with her?
If she's easy, she's getting smashed. She's not getting flown out, but she's getting smashed.
Understood, but two things can exist at the same time. It doesn't have to be this or that. I'm not saying that it's only the man's responsibility or it's only woman's responsibility. I am saying that as a collective, as our human nature is, we're going to pick up on clues over time, right? This is not something that just happens just like that. These are impressions on a subconscious level. Like about 70%, I believe, of our decision making happens on a subconscious level. Okay? So even if women know that if you are easy, you get mistreated, on a subconscious level, what she is observing is that I'm getting attention, which is what the feminine craves. So you cannot demonize a woman wanting attention if you are pro-feminine. If you love women, you need to know what a woman is. If I love my car, and I'm not going to demonize that my car needs gasoline, which is toxic for me, but beneficial for my car. It's not for me to put water inside of the tank and want it to run. It will betray me, right? I cannot give to it what satisfies me.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So as a man, where if men have tons of attention, sometimes men will demonize attention because they know what that can do for the male psyche. So we demonize it, but it's the essence of what a woman is. She wants attention, right? That's the feminine aspect of it. So if you start to tell women to stop wanting attention, you're going to get a hardened woman. So we have to see how we're playing our worst fears into our own hands. If your fear as a man is to have a society filled with easy women, but you're the one smashing the easy women, you are contributing to the problem. You're not innocent. You are a contributor to it. It's not your fault, but it's partially your responsibility. So in order to stop that, you would have to stop contributing to that. How does a man stop contributing to that? By being connected to his purpose. Protect his seed. Why wouldn't you protect your seed? Why wouldn't you protect your energy? Why would you share that kind of space with a woman that you don't respect?
We're not taught that, though. That's the thing.
Correct.
Before we get to the point of meeting that, I want to say that older male that's been through that and her estrogen is lower, and he's saying, hey, nurture that pregnant woman. This is what she wants. Buy her flowers. I think there's a huge gap before we get to that point as men. And then we have to seek that man. That man is never in, well, not never. That man is usually isn't our father or grandfather or in our home. And even if it is your grandfather, he may still be trapped in that mindset of this is what happened in the 60s. And like, you know, they were putting hands on women in the 60s. So you really have to go out to seek an intelligent male to even get to that part.
Absolutely.
And I think the men that are having sex with the women and contributing to the problem, they're not in a marrying mindset. They're not vetting and verifying. So I think there's a huge gap between getting there and the in-between part of that is a man actually wanting to improve himself outside of physically, outside of the physical. And I think it's more on us to want to, like I said, more on us to want to improve for ourselves outside of your influence as far as a woman. And I think that's what, it's just me personally understanding that that's what just made me a better man, and just to do it for yourself.
Right.
And everything else just changes. Like all that shit drops. All that macho
Machismo.
and all that shit drops. And like you learn to live like without ego.
Right.
And be, like you said, more empathetic. And I understand more and like, okay, well, me not saying something is not really avoiding the argument right now.
Yeah.
I understand where she is emotionally and it's just not the right time. So when you say like we're linear and we compartmentalize, I'll come back to it. And in the time that it takes me to come back to it, I'll know the tone that I need to address it.
Absolutely.
And in my 20s or being earlier and just not thinking about or caring about that, I didn't have that. I didn't have like that skill set.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I think that, and I've said this so many times before, I wish that men who had what they experienced as a successful marriage did more mentorship. reached out to more men. The scale in which there are opportunities for young women, and whether you're a young woman or a grown woman, the sister circles, right? The women who are doing real estate, and they're, come on sis, come on, there's money to be made, and they're doing a lot of this. We don't have that same scale for men. We don't have those same opportunities for men, even coming down to grants. There are a lot of grants for Black women, business owners. We don't have that same opportunity for men. And unfortunately, they are experiencing this worldview of, it's on me I have to do it for myself, by myself. And again, it's contributing to the detachment. Women crave intimacy, connection, attention, right? And men crave stability and consistency, right? And so when you are consistently having this experience of, I got to do this for myself, by myself, if you're not careful, you might project that expectation that others should be able to do it for themselves, by themselves. And so unfortunately, what that means is there's the lack of seeking. Like, I'm just 5 steps ahead of this guy, but I'm still 5 steps ahead. Even if I'm not where I want to be as a man, I'm still 5 steps ahead of this young man. And I can go ahead and impart on him the knowledge that I have. Because imagine all that you've acquired in knowledge at this stage of your life. And if you met a young man who's in his early 20s and you see the knucklehead in him, you see him with the girl, you see that she's misimpressionable, right? And you're like, I already know the end from the end from this beginning. It would be so impactful for you to pull him aside and mentor him and groom so that they stand the chance of having a healthier relationship. But what happens, unfortunately, is that men grow. I don't know if they choose to grow. I don't want to say they choose it, but find themselves in circumstances where they are growing outside of community. They're growing independently. And while there are some parts of it that is healthy, it also, again, perpetuates a disconnect, which makes it unhealthy. Because what we need to do is have the nucleus back intact with the grandparents, the intergenerational experience. You understand what I'm saying? So we need to consider that. So hopefully you'll consider that too when you see younger men around.
Oh, I would love to mentor somebody, but I don't feel like I'm there to mentor somebody.
You are.
But I feel like I would.
You are there.
But I still have like my flaws and things, because I feel like what you're saying, when you guys follow the BBLs and like the makeup artists and all the stuff you guys do to yourselves, we see the men in like real estate, we see the men, the drug dealers, we see the rappers,
right?
And we also see that like the likes under their pictures and the comments from that. So for us, it's like, okay, when you're asking us to provide and protect and everything like that, it seems like bullshit, because it seems like you just want money. That's how it feels like for us. Like, okay, we have to get out there. We got to get money.
Right.
And for us, sometimes it feels like we can't slow down to help the next person.
Yes.
So that's I think that's the disconnect of us as men.
Right.
Because I know that I see something, I'm like, okay, I have to get to that level.
Right.
And I know there's, like you said, there's someone's five steps below me that I should probably be helping.
Right.
But I feel that if I don't get to that level, then a woman's not going to respect me at this level.
Right.
So it's a constant like, okay, how am I going to gain her respect, and how is she going to see me in a different light that I want to see, I want to be at.
Right.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
And, we get to study other cultures that got it right. I don't want to say certain, especially with the political climate that we're in, and I don't, want to cause any chaos, but there are groups of people, I'm sure you guys will figure out what I'm talking about, right? You can guess, who have masterfully come to this country and they figured out the system, right? And they do what they need to do to make it work, and they have that intergenerational construct. It has to begin from somewhere, right? It just has to begin from somewhere, and it has to be with intention. Some of the men who are the most successful are the ones who run in their packs. The lone wolf is always vulnerable to attack. We have to just embrace the reality that is. And when you embrace the reality around some of the consequences in this case being the lone wolf, then you become intentional about the pack. You become intentional about creating the pack, finding the pack, making the pack. Something has to be done. Something has to be contributed in order to create this nucleus, this experience of this intergenerational construct of older and younger people working together.
Are these men who are just hurt or insecure? The whole red pill theory. Do you feel that they're hurt or insecure?
Absolutely. They are hurting, insecure. Again, this goes back to the conversation around what are we contributing to this? Women have contributed to the hurt that men have felt when they take advantage of the good guy who is doing all of the right things, and for some small reason that he's unaware of, she decides to reject him. And so he's at a loss for why this didn't work out. She wasn't honest. She didn't tell him the truth. She just took advantage of his kindness. She didn't express to him that you are going to forever stay in the friend zone unless you become more masculine. She may not know to say that, right? I don't know. Can't speak for all women, but they come out of these relationships wounded, right? Some of the men who are in the red pill community who are upset and hurting is because they are delusional around their behavior, right? They are delusional in why it didn't work out, right? So he could be absolutely overweight, making, almost no money, right? He's living in the basement of his parents' home and the entire floor is covered with Cheeto dust. He's filthy, right? And he decides to, entertain a relationship with a woman who's clearly out of his league. He's a 5, she's a 10. Maybe he catches her at a time where she was sick of how all of the other 8s treated her. And so she decides to give him a bit of a chance, but he can't maintain her. He doesn't have, and when I say she's a 10, I don't mean in a superficial way. She can be educated, fit, physically fit. She has a spiritual life. She meditates. She's well-rounded, right? She doesn't have to be superficial, but she could be an 8, 9, 10 in her own right. He is a 5. He doesn't exercise. He's not able to take care of himself, right? He is relying on his parents. He's not clean. He doesn't practice cleanliness. And over time, she recognizes that he has a little bit of a sour odor and things of that nature. It's just completely unpleasant. And maybe she's not even rude or disrespectful. Maybe this one is actually clear. I don't want a relationship with you because she recognizes you cannot mentally stimulate me. I'm not mentally stimulated by you. Our conversations are very rudimentary. You cannot lead me spiritually. You don't have a relationship with God. You're not physically fit. She could be exceptionally fit. This, sweetheart, I appreciate all the time that we've had together. This is not going to work. He's seething mad because he didn't acknowledge the fact that he's being delusional. So we have a conglomerate of men from all walks of life, some who are reasonably upset and many who are delusional. And they're sharing this space of hurt around where they felt that women have failed them, but they all probably have the same thing in common. They do not understand women. They won't take the responsibility for that. What they'll rather do is when they come into understanding some things about women, they demonize it. As an example, they'll hear things like women just want attention. Women just want money. Women need resources. Women are vulnerable in their physiological body, hormonally. We have 1 week where we have a great surge of testosterone. The other weeks we're all over, right? We're just holding on. So women, every woman has a rhythm and men do not know that. Every woman has a rhythm. So when a man says that women are confusing, that is a man who doesn't understand a woman because every woman has a rhythm. And if you studied your woman, you would understand her pattern and her rhythm. You'd know okay, she must be about a week out from her cycle hitting because she is irritable, right? Or she's super quiet. So she must be low on energy because her cycle is coming around, or she is super hot. Her hair is thick, her skin looking good, her breasts are perkier, she ovulating, right? She's ovulating, she's in the mood. So when a man studies a woman's rhythm, he'll better understand. Any man that doesn't understand women is a man who just has not taken the time to understand her rhythm. So what they are doing is they're entering in these relationships with this notion that I want what I want. I want a woman, a beautiful woman sitting across from me that I can look at. I want the softness and tenderness of her energy. I want her smiles. I want the sex, right? I want the intimacy. I want the softness and plushness of her body. I want people to know that I'm with a baddie. So when I come out the car, he's like, that's you? That's you right over there? He wants that experience. But he doesn't understand there's a cost for that. Can you afford that cost? You need to be rich in your mindset, in your pocket, in your spirituality. You need to be full. You You need to come into a relationship full. You can't come into the relationship empty, needing, I just need a woman to help me get on my game, and I just need a woman to help me out and things like that. Okay, and keep on keeping on and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the men that are in that group with the Red Pill Society, and they are 100%. Majority of them are insecure, and majority of them are absolutely hurt. I know men. I have coached men who've actually come out of Red Pill Society because they realize that this is. So I had one client that I'm thinking of in particular, where he said, I went out and I did the things that they said to do, and I found myself still hungering, and like I had an insatiable appetite and desire for a relationship, a real relationship. All of that, he lost count of how many women he ran through, lost count, and realized it didn't satisfy me. Right. So there are men who are coming out of it because they realize that this is still not giving me what I want. I want family. Red Pill Society is not going to give you family. If you are a man and you want family, Red Pill Society is not it. Okay? It's not going to provide. Red Pill Society is going to appeal to your ego. You're going to find that you're going to come up short every time.
And also, just because you have sex with a lot of women, you have to look at the other side of that. That is basically how much time you wasted
Indeed.
away from your purpose. So 10 women could have been 10 years or 10 minutes or 10 hours that you could have been doing what you're supposed to do to get the woman that you actually want and actually deserve. So
it looks like to me that you seem physically fit, well-spoken, right? And I did hear you say something that let me know that you are on a healing journey. You said a keyword. You said shadow work. So that was my clue into recognizing, okay, he must be on a healing journey or has, touched upon that. You talked about meditation. These are some things that, a lot of is becoming mainstream, but a lot of people don't know about that. So I'm curious about your journey and like how you've seemed to become into your masculinity and grown, and like what triggered you to change? Like where were you before, and like how did that manifest over time?
I'll skip over like the super traumatic stuff.
Okay.
But for me, women have always been very just easy to obtain. So I didn't find value in them. So not finding value in them, it's always like they just became like shells, just shells and shells of just like.
Ooh, child, you was trying to fill them up. Lord have mercy. Right.
Shells of graveyards in the cemetery, basically.
Right.
So with that, I can relate to what you said with the person going out and just feeling empty. And after feeling empty, I gravitated towards women that were abusive.
Wow.
Because they were able to make me feel outside of physical. But the abuse was more like mental and emotional and like verbal. And I thought that was my karma for all the stuff that I had done.
Got it.
So not until therapy did I realize that wasn't healthy, and that's not going to get me to where I wanted to go.
Right.
So when I started my therapy journey, it was more or less figuring out the root of like, where did I get that feeling of just not being whole, or not feeling lovable, or not feeling deserving of like an emotional connection.
Indeed.
Because just all the sex, there was no connection behind it. It was just physical and just ego and machismo, like you said. So not until I got to like a certain point where I wanted to realize what the problem was. So accountability and, acknowledging there is a problem, and taking the step, finding the proper therapist. Because just because you go to therapy, just because you find a therapist, they may not be the one for you.
Right.
And going to multiple therapists is okay.
Yep. Like
you have to figure out who you're willing to give your shit to, and feel safe giving that shit to them. That's very important. Because I did get frustrated with the amount of therapists I went to. Like, they're just not understanding me. And so when I found somebody that I felt comfortable with, it's just like everything just opened. And I found out like what my issues were. And I had to put a pause on a lot of things, mainly the sex. Like for me, like sex was just really addicting, because it was just easy, and it was just like, all right, it was just, even though it wasn't fulfilling emotionally,
right,
it was just very easy, and it just kind of masked the things that were going on, and just was just
dopamine hits.
Yes, just constant. Sorry, I said that. It was kind of a lot of sex,
right?
But um, while doing so, like I was still in relationships, and I would have to kind of like withdraw, but I would I would have to figure out like why I was withdrawing, and then when I figured out like this person wasn't my person,
Right.
I got deeper into therapy, and the more she said, you have to figure out like what you want to do with your life. Like that's how I discovered like what purpose was, like what outside of this, like what drives me, like what am I passionate about, like what are my goals.
Beautiful.
And then when I figured out like how long I hadn't been paying attention to those goals and like my actual passion, then it's almost like a switch. I just turned everything off.
Mhm.
And then learning about being able to sit with myself and like taking that Friday and Saturday off instead of like being out, getting drunk and doing shit that I enjoy doing, still enjoy doing.
Right.
But just taking that time to myself and really sitting and crying. Like
Yeah.
just really crying over like the hurt that I've gone through, the hurt that I caused.
Mhm.
And from that point trying to figure out like how I can correct some things and like how I can change some things, like how I can fix and like what's not fixable.
Mhm.
And then working from there, just like step by step by step by step, and then realizing the things that I thought I was going to miss the most, I didn't miss as much because I was getting so much more into myself and like figuring out more that I liked outside of sex.
Yeah.
And from that point, it was just like, yo, you know what? Let me work out too. Let me throw that on. Because I told him last time, like, go to the gym, pick up a book. But then, like, the third step was really just about self-mastery.
Yes.
Just what can you live without and what are you willing to sacrifice to become like your higher self?
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me towards like meditation. And then I got like into like chakras and Reiki and just like sound baths and all types of stuff. And it just became like this just like rabbit hole of things. And it replaced. So it was almost like switching your vices, but making my vice more positive.
Right.
And then seeing the people that were still around from my positive vices,
Mm-hmm.
or seeing the people that I picked up from my positive vices. And ironically, not really ironic, but I feel that women find me way more attractive without me really speaking or saying too much.
Mm-hmm.
The effort that I had to do, which was even still minimal,
Mm-hmm.
not being like hockey or anything, but
Right.
just the types of women that I would meet, like just, I'm into older women, but the older women that I would meet.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, Usher.
yes. And then that the older women like had experiences, and I felt like, wow, you must see something in me that you want to experience with me and like share these with me. And so that made me feel worthy, but I felt actually worthy within myself to feel deserving of that. And before I didn't, it was more like, oh, she just sees me as this item and just object, arm candy or whatever.
Right.
So from there, them seeing something in me, and then like speaking to, I actually spoke to this famous photographer, who gave me like this big brother talk.
Mm.
And he asked me, he was the first man to ever ask me like what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And this is in my 30s. Mm-hmm. He was like, what do you want to do with your life? And that question just like, I just sat there. I was just like, and then I took that home, and like those Fridays and Saturday nights that I just sat with myself, I thought about it, and I just devised a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did another photo shoot, and I gave him an answer, and he was like, "That's cool. Now apply it." Mm. So it was the lessons and then like the application.
That part.
So after all that, I just found so much peace.
Do you feel like you're more authentic now?
Super authentic, but I also feel like with the whole authenticity thing that people want to see one side of you,
Mm-hmm.
because like I feel like that's all that they can digest at a time. So when you try different things, mm-hmm. and like go out on a limb to do what makes you happy, I think that's where the quote unquote hate and the criticism comes from. But if you're doing it,
that would be the vetting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you're doing it from like a place of like, listen, this is just what I feel like doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell them every time I come here, like, yo, I don't really go into comments.
Right.
Or if the comments come to me like and they're on some homosexual stuff that I'm not into.
Right.
if they're like that, then I'll just block them. Or if I see something I don't like, I just block,
Right.
or I just restrict or delete, because like I don't give any more energy to that.
Right.
And I just keep doing what I do. And I feel like doing what I do has gotten me like here and like where I'm supposed to be. So I feel like I'm living in purpose.
Yes. Do you feel like the quality of your relationships have improved?
Tenfold.
Yes.
Tenfold. Like, besides meeting like great women,
Mm-hmm.
the great women that I have met that like love me for me have stuck around.
I was
And
waiting for that part.
yeah, it's few though. It was very few. Very few. And I never really had like a lot of male friends, because there's always like a competition or whatever. But like the core group that I have, it's just like my guys. So it's not like there's no trust issues. And it's like a completely different life,
Right.
to where I sleep better, even though I get shitty sleep now, but it's still better.
Right.
I sleep better, and the things that like people see on the outside, it took, I know how much it took to get here.
That's it.
You know, it was
Can I actually touch upon why you're having better relationships? I'm gonna share with you why.
I feel like I'm having better relationships because I can be more honest with who I am to this person.
Indeed.
So it's more or less, I'm gonna tell you who I am, and like, you do with that information what you want, as opposed to like me being afraid to tell you and like you running off. Because like abandonment was like one of my biggest, core trauma issues, wounds. Yeah. So now I'm just me, and people see me and like, oh, this, that. And it don't really bother me, because it's just me, and that's it. You got to take it or leave it, really.
Absolutely.